everyone. Welcome to our virtual Swamp Fox Bookstore virtual event with Lindsay Leahy to celebrate the release of Take It All Apart, which has been a bestseller at Swamp Fox Bookstore for 2 weeks running. I didn't do a bestseller last week, so congratulations last week,
Thank
Lindsay.
you.
But because we were so busy, but 2 weeks running now. So we appreciate everyone's support of our store and Lindsay championing buying local. We appreciate that, and we can always order more books, which we have more stock coming in the next couple of days. So for anybody that didn't get the book yet, we're happy to report we'll have more in soon. So great. So I will hand it off to Sarah and Lindsay, and they'll take it from here. So welcome, everybody. Have a great time.
Thank you so much, Terry. And thank you, everyone. Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sarah Watson, the creator of Calm with the Restoration Project. I have the pleasure of kicking off today's programming. So thanks so much for joining us during your lunch hour. First of all, a big thank you to Swamp Fox Bookstore. Terry and her team, everyone at Swamp Fox has been wonderful to work with, amazing, very helpful. They've helped us through this whole process. We didn't know exactly what to do, how to do it. They've guided us the whole way. So please support local. Please support Swamp Fox Bookstore. They have really helped us, and we want to help them. So thank you, Swamp Fox. And a big thank you to our team at the Restoration Project, our energy builder, Brooke Fitzgerald, who's joining us on this. Our CMO, Molly, she's also joining us today. And of course, our dream builder and author of
And you, Sarah.
Take It All Apart. Thank you, Lindsay. We're here to celebrate. So thank you for joining. We're here to celebrate the release of Take It All Apart. And of course, Lindsay, the author. Writing a book is very hard. It takes a special level of skill, dedication, consistency, and love.
Mm-hmm.
During today's Q&A, Lindsay will share really more about this. She'll share the backstory of the book, how it was created. So please feel free to ask questions. Terry is going to help us in the chat with some Q&A and things. So if you have a question that you want to ask Lindsay and anything about her book, the process, please feel free to ask questions throughout. And I'm going to repeat, writing a book is hard. And I might also say that I believe getting the book out into the world might be harder. And this is where you all can support Take It All Apart. Some people may think that when a person sets out to write and publish a book, that it's all about selling books. And that is one part, of course. But our collective team at the Restoration Project has spent a lot of time with Lindsay during the past 3 years and this project. And we've had the joy of hearing about the book, getting a sneak peek of the book, and learning about the book along the way. And during the last 3 years, we've really learned that it's not about selling book, it's about sharing the book. So everyone in this room knows Lindsay and knows her in some way as a friend, as a colleague, a family member, a community connection, a volunteer member. She is a connector. She connects people, ideas, and our community. She is a connector of good and love. The greatest gift you can do today for an author like Lindsay is to buy a copy of the book, yes, but to share the book. Share the book. Share a copy with your friends, your family. Share the book with your team. Share the book during a coffee conversation with a friend or a colleague. Share the book while you're walking with a friend. Share the book with a member of your church. Maybe it's your salsa dancing club, your chess club, recreational volleyball
Whatever
league.
you're into.
Wherever you hang out in community, please share. Share the book on your preferred social media platform. Share the book with your favorite podcast hosts. And please share a review on Goodreads, Amazon, or your chosen platform. Sharing the book creates connection and a positive ripple that will allow it to reach the hands and hearts of more people. And this is part of Lindsay's dream. So Lindsay, we are so proud of all the hard work you did to create Take It All Apart. We're excited to hear your beautiful message today. And we cannot wait to share Take It All Apart with our friends, our teammates, our family, connections, and help you on your journey as you've helped so many on their journey.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is the fun of being in person. I thought Sarah was going to join remotely. And so this is, now we get to be together. It's so special. And so thank you, yes, all for joining us. Thank you, Sarah, for your beautiful message. Sarah tends to know my heart better than I do sometimes. And when she shared her remarks about sharing the book instead of selling the book, I think that's what I'm hopeful today, that you're going to capture the essence of this book being a gift from me, from our team to you, for you to explore. So I thought I'd just share a little bit about the journey to hear what the book's about, who it's for, and then some intentions for the book down the road. And then we would, like we said, love to hear your questions. We had an in-person event last Thursday, and the question and answer part was the deepest, richest, and most meaningful part. And it was fun to hear just everybody's myriad of questions. So please drop them in the chat, or there is a special Q&A box if you'd prefer to use that. But I'll start with just thanking also the team, thanking all of my friends and family, clients, my husband, Mitch, because this book is really a representation of God's work in my life and is a representation of all of the good people who have surrounded me to help make this happen. I could not have done this, and there were several times in the process that I wanted to throw my computer and this whole thing out the window, and would have done so had I not been surrounded by so many lovely human beings to help. So I'll take you back. For some of you that are joining virtually, I know you don't even know the story of the Restoration Project, which is the company that we all lead together to provide leadership coaching and some organizational consulting nationwide. And this whole book process, I would say, kind of started with that and some dreams about Moses in the desert while I was in a successful corporate sales job and feeling like God was calling me into something different. And as I came home and told my husband, I think God's actually calling me to be a pastor or a missionary of some kind. And Mitch was just, God bless that man. He's so patient and lovely and loving, and knew that he signed up for a wild ride when he married me. And so he said, well, that's a pretty hard pivot from where we are today. So maybe you need to take some time to explore what this is and what this means and what you feel called to. And so I had the pleasure and privilege to quit my corporate job and spend 90 days just exploring, like Moses in the desert. It felt like that some days, desperate for answers, trying to figure out what I felt called to. And the word restoration kept coming up. And in that, my own personal experience was when we talk about leadership and team and even organizational development, we often jump to skills and characteristics and skill building and concepts and frameworks instead of going deeper into, from an identity and intentions perspective, who am I? What are my unique gifts? How am I trying to be? Who am I trying to be in the world, whether that's me as an individual leader, me as a team, or us as an entire organization. And so that's what led to the formation of the Restoration Project. And then it was about a couple of years into practicing together. So I started the business, and then Brooke joined, and then Sarah joined. And then this idea of how do we get our individual coaching practice, which is broken into 3 parts represented in this book: building connection, restoring intention, and inspiring action. How do we get that into a framework that can be available to the masses? And it was about that time that Greenleaf Publishing Group, who is the publisher of the book, had reached out to publish some of my blog posts. And instead, I pitched them this concept of our individual coaching practice packaged up in frameworks and stories to help people on their own restoration journey. And they loved it. And so that our business, that was 2021, our business kind of took off, had to put the book on the proverbial shelf for a period of time, and then pick it back up at the end of 2022. So spent most of the end of 2022, 23 writing it. And that process in and of itself was so lovely and wonderful. And then, like Sarah said, getting it into the world has been such a fascinating experience. Back to what the book is about. It really is a hopeful invitation for anyone in any role that you exist. When we talk about leadership, it's not a role inside of an organization. It's each of us are leaders, even if it's just of our own life, but it might be in our community, in our family, but it's a framework and questions to help you live, lead, and work more intentionally. And so that first part of the book is all about rebuilding connection with yourself, with others, and with something greater, whatever that means for you. And then the second part of the book has questions and frameworks that help you really restore your intention. And what that means for us is offering questions like, what is meaningful and valuable to you? And what does a good life look like for you? So that you can quiet the noise and clear out what everybody else wants for you, but really discover that for yourself. And then part 3 is helping you build that into an action plan, because sometimes that's shifting our thinking. Sometimes that's letting go of limiting beliefs and fears. Sometimes that's instilling different habits and practices so that we can really live out that beautiful, true, good part of us that is deep inside here and bring that forth into the world. So that's the story of the book. I did want to offer too, there was a couple of people that were asking at the live book event, what is the central message of the book and what is the hardest part of the content that you've written here? And so I wanted to proactively offer those as we'll take questions from the audience here coming up. But a couple things that I want people to know about the book. First, that it is a hopeful invitation. So I shared the story of offering this book to a group of people at a church. And it was mostly men in their 70s and 80s. And at the end of talking conceptually about the book, one man said to me, well, you just have me rethinking my entire life and every decision that I've ever made. And I was like, oh, well, let's put that energy forward, focus that energy into the future. All of us have made mistakes, done different things. And it's not good for us to dwell in the past, but really use these frameworks and tools to look forward into the future. And whether you have, 70 years left or 10 or 20 years left, to help you live the best and most intentional life that you can. So one is that it's a hopeful invitation. Another central message of the book is just this idea that you are true and beautiful and good, and you are here to love and be loved. And each of us has that inside of us. And that part often needs to be rediscovered because life happens to us. Tough experiences happen to us. We create turmoil in our own life that leaves us with all of these layers and walls built up around us. And the purpose of the book is to reconnect with almost that childhood like wonder that's inside of each of us, and bring that spirit out, reconnect with that, and bring that intention into the world. And then the last one I would say is that it is really an invitation to freedom and liberation. So the path, the journey can be challenging. You're going to go through a process through the book of reflecting on your lived experiences and which of those lived experiences really shaped your life and your belief system and your behavioral patterns, and take a good hard look at what of those are serving you still and which of those you may need to let go of. And so there is a messy middle that you have to walk through.
No, shocker.
In order to get to the good stuff. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows and feel good, but it's so worth it to get to the freedom that stands on the other side. And this process, this take it all apart process. Some people have been texting me, I can't wait to take it all apart. Like they're using it as a verb, Yeah. It's like, this is a process that you can revisit over and over. And So I like to share that this book came out at the perfect time for me because we lost my mother-in-law this year. We lost my grandmother-in-law within months of each other, and they're very close to my husband and I. And that this framework really helped me come back to, wow, this really pivotal thing happened in my life that changed me, changed my priorities, changed my life. And these frameworks and questions are helping me to kind of reset more intentionally. So
That's really beautiful.
I have an excerpt that I want to read, but anything else that you want to make sure we share before we go to Q&A?
I think it would be great for you to share a passage. And I see we have some really lovely people that have been joining and commenting in on where they're joining us from. So we have someone in Marion. We have someone tuning in from North Carolina that has Wisconsin, Iowa roots.
Yeah,
so it's great to see everyone commenting. So if you want to share where you're joining us from, that would be great. If you want to start populating your questions, because we know some of you have some good questions to ask. And yes, let's hear your passage.
And nothing is off limits. So you can ask about the book writing process. You can ask about me. You can ask about TRP, whatever you want to know.
Yes,
we're here for it.
Can you share the page that you're on in case people want to follow along in their books?
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to read from the introduction because I feel like that gives us a good, here's what this is going to be about.
Sure.
Okay, so this very first page. The top regret of the dying is wishing they'd lived a life true to themselves, not the life others expected of them. The first time I read this, it stopped me in my tracks because I realized I was actively walking down this same path of regret. A life true to myself? I didn't have a clue what that looked like or meant. What I did know is that I was overwhelmed, exhausted, and frustrated by my life, despite it being a good one. Something was missing. I wasn't sure how to move forward, but I knew something needed to change. Have you ever felt that way? Maybe you do right now. Stuck, anxious, held back by past experiences, shackled by emotions or the expectation of others. So focused on others that you aren't sure what you want or need. Maybe you're seeking deeper connections or relationships that are more satisfying, or you simply want to continue your growth and healing journey. If you desire to live a life of peace, confidence, and freedom, one that isn't filled with anxiety and fear, then you're in the right place. Each of us have a seeker, a dreamer, and a lover inside of us. The wild and free part, it's the part of ourselves that we push down or tried to forget. The wild and free part that shows our childlike wonder and hope for a life full of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Even when we can't feel it, that part is still there, waiting to be given permission to come forward. But too many of us live in the safe middle and miss out on the inspiring parts of life, the parts of life that light us up and fill our souls. The experiences that we find meaningful and allow us to feel the full range of emotions that life has to offer. Imagine a spectrum where on one end is deep pain and on the other is overwhelming joy. The safe middle is where most of us try to live because it's comfortable and because it allows us to avoid those feelings of pain that are a natural and soul-wrenching part of being human. What we don't realize is that by avoiding that end of the spectrum, we also cut ourselves off from the overwhelming joy. I mean, when's the last time you can say you truly experienced overwhelming joy? The kind that brings you to your knees in gratitude for being alive, fills your eyes with tears, and makes you feel like your heart may explode. In protecting ourselves from the pain, we also keep ourselves from that joy. I've been that person living in the safe middle. Growing up in a family that struggled with addiction and domestic violence, I learned to operate out of fear and a feeling of unworthiness. I carried the fear and the pain of my past like a heavy backpack, and it was impacting everything I did without my realizing it. I was afraid to allow myself to be too happy because I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I was afraid to allow myself to be fully loved and cared for because I knew that eventually that friendship would end, that relationship might fail, or that person I loved so much would die. I'm going to end us there. That's a heavy, but with the hope that I think that will sound like a familiar narrative. I mean, every client that we work with has walked through those things. And although your story might not be the same as mine and your experience is not the same as mine, all of us have those limiting beliefs and fears, and they're getting in the way of us being who we were meant to be and doing the work that we're called to do in this life. So when I say this book is an invitation to hope and freedom, that's what I hope it will be for people. There are not answers in this book. There are stories. So I hope that you feel like I am a lovely, warm friend walking alongside you, encouraging on your own journey and opening up safe space for you to explore what might emerge and be revealed to you through this book so that you can take steps forward, so that you don't end your life wishing that you would have lived it differently. So
well said. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing the intro. Shall we take some questions?
Let's take some
Let's
questions.
do it. We have another friend joining us from Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, Andy. She's our buddy, longtime friend from way back when TRP first formed. We love you, Andy.
So you ready for those questions?
Ready.
Okay, we've got a question from Julia. I'm going to show the question here. So which of your values did you most frequently fall back upon in creating this book?
Oh, good question. So I would say courage. So courage is a personal value of mine, individually, Lindsay. But then at the Restoration Project, live with courage is also one of our stated values as a team. And, putting a book in the world can leave you feeling very vulnerable and exposed. And that's a place that does not feel safe or comfortable for any of us. And I think especially for me, based on my lived experience. And so every time that I was like, oh, I can't put this in the world, especially toward the end, the hardest part was putting the final touches on it and letting it be ready to go into the world. One, because I knew the day it published, I would know more. And I had to just accept that and allow that to be true. The book is a representation of that point in time, but also scared that I can't control how it's going to be interpreted, what people are going to think about it. So I kept falling back to courage. And then secondarily, I would say love, because that's the spirit of what this book is. It's a gift. And I kept just thinking about my younger self and how much I needed the material in this book and how I hope that it would help people in a similar way.
Very good.
So
Thanks,
Lori
Julia, for
has
the
a question. What did you learn about yourself, the team, in writing the book?
Ooh, Lori, big fan of you too. And Julia, all my favorite people. What did you learn about yourself and the team? I think, there's so many things. I'm going to stick with, though, one being that you truly cannot do things alone. So that in my lived experience and some of my limiting beliefs have been that I have to do it alone because nobody's going to show up for me, or they're not going to show up for me in the way that I need them. And Sarah, God bless her, has known me since college. So she's watched me healing those wounds from a personal standpoint, but then more real, I think, through our work together at the Restoration Project and just trusting the team to do their part. And so I think letting it be, although I was the vessel maybe for this book and I was the one that wrote it, it really is a representation of all the people who have helped me along the way and helped me bring it into the world. So that lesson that we don't do anything alone. And if you do, then that's unfortunate and you're not living up to your full potential and letting it be the most beautiful thing that it could be.
That was a good question, Lori. Thank you.
Keep them
Thanks,
coming.
Lori Warden. Wonderful question. We love you, Lori.
Okay. From Mary, do you think there would be value in doing this through a book study with a trusted friend?
Oh,
Mary,
talk about the,
love you, Mary.
the,
Yeah.
yes. The guided workbook?
Yeah. So, yes, Mary, thank you. So Molly, our marketing person, created this beautiful book. People have received a digital copy, but you can send this, to Canva or your local printer to get this printed and bound. And initially I had thought maybe I would put the lines for you to write in the book in it. And the publisher suggested, no, just publish a guidebook, because if people are going to come back to this over and over again, that will allow them to have a clean copy of the book and then just scribble their notes in paper. And so, yes, there's that to work alongside it is an option for you. That's also available on our website for purchase. But for those on this call, you should have received a free downloadable of that. And yes, book study, because Mary, the most powerful part of going through this with a buddy is you might see yourself one way, but they might see something that you don't see. And so as you are sharing answers with each other, you can offer different perspective than maybe you would come up with just on your own to make your discovery and exploration journey even richer and deeper. So alongside that, go do your thing. We want this book to be in the world. We want you to use it however you want. There are several people that are, I like to say, going rogue, because that's kind of fun, but like formulating their own individual book clubs and doing this, reading it together and discussing it together. And then we will have some more formal offerings from the Restoration Project in 2025 to invite people into spaces to go through the book and learn and grow together. And then we've also been invited in a couple of corporate settings to host book clubs with just people within that organization. So you go do your thing. If you want us to be involved, let us know, and we would love to explore that with you. Thank you, Mary.
Okay. So the next one we got from Sarah here. What was the hardest part of writing the book? What recommendation would you have for anyone who wants to write a book?
Yes. Shout out, Sarah's a good buddy of both of ours.
Oh.
Hi, Sarah. Hardest part of writing the book was finding my individual writing process and style. And so this kind of dovetails into your recommendation for someone who wants to write a book. I would really encourage you to think about, one, where are you when it comes to the process of writing a book? Do you just have an idea? Are you already writing pretty regularly and that comes easy to you? Are you somebody who needs support to stick with things and see them all the way through? Or some people are just, they've got an idea, but they have no idea where to start. So depending on where you are, like if you're somebody that has an idea, you know how to get it down on paper, you know how to get it into a form that then you could hand over to like a self-publisher, then you might not need as much support as like somebody like me. I worked with Greenleaf Book Group because I had this idea, but I didn't know how to go through the process of the book creation and the writing process. So they provided me a manuscript development editor to help form an outline. And then she was my coach through the process of getting it all out on paper before we then went through the editing process and started to put it into a physical book form. And she really helped me with what was the hardest part for me was figuring out, she had suggested, my manuscript development editor at first, find little pockets every day to write. And I found myself rewriting every day, the same things over, like almost restarting the book. And so I figured out for me, I needed bigger spaces and bigger chunks of time. So a day or 2 days set aside. And then I needed rituals to like get in the zone and connect. For me, this was very much a co-created experience with God to produce this book. And so inviting him in through prayer and lighting a candle and going for a walk in nature and kind of having a routine to settle into the space to allow the words to flow was helpful. And then knowing that on those days, if it was flowing, I'm staying in the room and telling Mitch, my husband, to come feed me because I can't break the flow.
That was, yes, Lindsay shared at the in-person launch that sometimes Mitch would come to the door and say, are you coming out for dinner or should I just leave it by the door?
That's the part of the creative process. You can't control when you're going to get the downloads and when you're going to get in the zone. So for somebody, Sarah knows this about me. I'm so like controlling of my schedule, and I had to just learn like that's not how creativity goes. So you got to make the space and let it flow.
And good job, Mitch.
Good job, Mitch.
Checking in on her. Do you need dinner or should I leave it by the door? Fair question.
This one is sort of tangentially related. I don't know that you've touched on this part of this question before, or I know you did last week, but so Courtney says, how did you navigate the publisher literary agent world when you knew you wanted to publish a book?
This one was kind of a miracle for me because Greenleaf came to me. But what I learned through the process is there are 1,000 different ways that you can publish a book and go through this process. So again, going back through, do I just have a concept? How much support do I need? I mean, Greenleaf, to give you an example, Courtney, like they also talked to me about the title of the book and the visual concept of the book. And they were very much more of a consultant leader for me in the process, so that all I had to do was write and not worry about anything else. Now, I obviously paid more for those types of services to make it a quality book. But for me, and Sarah knows this about me, like I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And I know where I want to put my energy and where I don't. And I outsource where I'm not good and where things drain me. And so that's kind of how I saw the book writing process. It's like, I got the ideas. I know how to write them down. But the rest.
You don't want to be the illustrator.
No.
That's
no.
Fair.
So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Courtney, for the question.
So I have a question from Josie, and only part of it would fit, so I'm going to finish it off separately because I couldn't get all of it put in here. So the lessons seem like lessons that would be wonderful for teenagers to help prevent making the same mistakes we have all made. Do you have any suggestions for taking this content to teens or plans to create a way for them to consume it?
Yes. Sarah's smiling because she knows I have a huge heart for teenagers. So I actually work with 3 teens. And part of it was because I was working with their parents in the corporate space, and they're like, I think my daughter needs you. And so we started coaching, and it is, a lot of these concepts are applicable. So to answer the question about what will come for teens, I have them reading it right now since it just came on the market. And then I'm going to be letting them help me co-create what that might look like and find out from them whether it will be different than what we would do with adults in maybe a book club or courses or something like that, and how we might change the language or the questions or not. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty similar. Just the way that we set up the space and the conversation might look a little bit different, or we might break it up differently. But the one thing that continues to be on my heart about teens and this content is something I resisted heavily when I was in the corporate space, and my boss said, you need to just be where your feet are, and you need to get really good at what you're doing and where you're at, and accept that lived experience in some spaces is the best teacher. Like I was trying to get to the next step, get to the next level. And he's like, some of it, you just can't get there until you've experienced enough of life. And so I'm trying to figure out, Josie, to your point, can we prevent young people from making some of the same mistakes, or is that just a part of life that we all have to live through? But I do think my number one goal with teens, so the hardest part of the book is part 1, rebuilding connection with yourself, others, and something greater, because it requires us to quiet the noise and eliminate distractions and come back to who we are and what are our unique gifts and what's in here, instead of trying to formulate how we should be or who we should be based on what we're seeing on social media or out here in the world. So I do think that for them, I might spend a little bit more time and energy forming content and habits and practices and experiences around part 1 of the book, because they're already, indoctrinated and into these bad habits of social media consumption and external focus. So we could, if we focus there, then the rest of it might naturally happen, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the last question that I have, so if people have more questions, I can drop them in, but the last question that I have is one from Julia. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you have a target audience in mind with the book?
Yeah, so we went rounds about this with my publisher. And so I'm going to give the answer that we landed on. So first, I think the primary audience for this book, thank you for Julia, you're so awesome. The first audience for this book is like the seekers and the dreamers, the people that want to reach their full potential and want to live an intentional life. There are some of us, I don't even know sometimes how to explain this. Until I was in my late 20s, I didn't even know. I was not even aware that I was doing what everybody else wanted me to do and reacting to the world, and almost like completely disconnected and disembodied, like that I was just doing so much so fast that I wasn't even really thinking about what I was doing. And it wasn't until I got to New York City, traveling for this gig, making all this money, living this great life, and feeling completely empty, that I was like, is this all there is? There has to be something different, or a different way to live and think about life. So I'm targeting first the people who've already had experiences like that and are like, hey, I want something more. I want to use this one beautiful life that I have for something good. And then secondarily, I think the secondary audience will be really leaders in different capacities. So whether that's teachers, people that have a ripple effect on others, because we need them to wake up. Like when I was in corporate America, I saw so many leaders that were just, I think, completely unaware, but hurting other people by the things that they said, by the things that they did, even in an innocent of a way as saying we're a people-oriented organization, but driving and talking all the time about profit and money. And it's like, if we're a performance-driven organization, just say it. Don't say that you care about people, but then create all these systems that say that you don't. So helping leaders really better align their intentions and actions by using some of these frameworks to help them become more aware of their beliefs and their behaviors that have been shaped by their lived experiences, and then walking through facing, this is where my intentions and actions are not aligned, or my behaviors are in a certain pattern. Because like my first 360 review, I got told that I was an aggressive B word, and I was like, wait, what? Like my heart was so good for the team and I was trying to do right and I was trying to help us hit our goals. But the way I was going about it was obviously really hurting some people. And I needed that feedback to wake up, because I didn't even realize that my intentions and actions were not aligned. So that's why we're kind of targeting that secondary audience to be, leaders within organizations, government, teachers, those people that have a ripple effect on other human beings very directly. That was a really long answer.
It was a great question. Thank you,
It was
Julia.
a good question.
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't know if anybody else has any more questions, but that's all that I've seen in the chat. I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I did, just restate the question and we'll get it answered for you.
Yeah, I think you got them all, Terry.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Lindsay, while we're finishing off questions, Is there anything else you want to share with the audience about other ways to support? We talked about sharing the book. Today, I'll make sure that we send out that the digital copy of the guided workbook if you haven't received it already, so that you can have the guided workbook copy, and sharing the book. Other ways for support and just how you want to see this fly into the world.
Well, back to, Terry, you've been such an incredible partner in helping us get this into the world. I don't know what, we had no idea what we were doing. Thank God for you. But I would also say, like, people are asking, maybe they missed the initial launch window, and so they didn't get a copy that was signed. And they're like, well, I still want a signed copy. Well, if you order through Swamp Fox, Terry will make sure that I come into the store and sign it, and either you pick up the copy or, she'll ship it to you. Yep. But I think that's one of the main things. Like, you can get it on all the platforms, but because we have this platform to share, Terry's been so incredible at informing me of the system that by which, these bookstores, these independent bookstores, are so important, and supporting them is so important. And yeah, you might pay a little bit more. And honestly, like, from an author standpoint, Terry and I have talked about this, I'm incented to sell through Amazon and these big box stores, because then I get the ratings and I get a bigger cut. But that's not what we're trying to do. This book is about living and leading intentionally. And supporting local is so incredibly important to our team that we're not going to play that game. And I want more people to do that in every aspect of their life. So if you would, even though you can very conveniently order on Amazon, please order through Swamp Fox so that we can support Terry and local. Or bookshop.org. She always reminds me.
Bookshop.org is another viable source as well, if you prefer that. So, and you can support us, or you can support your local independent bookstore. If you're not local to us, we do, as Lindsay mentioned, we do ship, but it's possible that you can order it from your personal, backyard independent bookstore as well, if you have one that's closer to home. So just encourage you to take advantage of that. And we appreciate the support. And when you do check out with us, if you do buy the book from us, if you just note in the comments that you would like it signed, and if you want it personalized to anyone in particular, we're happy to do that. It will take us, of course, a little bit longer to get it to you, because we have to get them in. If we don't have them, then Lindsay has to come over and sign them. But we will get it signed for you and shipped off or ready for pickup as soon as we are able.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say in supporting the book is, we've talked about, if you have any groups that you think you'd want to share this book with, or inviting me or any part of our team to come speak, share, create an experience. We got to share the book at the Indian Creek Nature Center, the Women in Nature event. And afterwards, several women were like, when are you going to do a full day retreat on this content? And we're like, not even on my radar. Love that idea. Keep the ideas coming. We really want to co-create experiences that are meaningful with the people that are in our circle, in a way that makes sense for you, instead of us dictating. And that's part of the magic of the Restoration Project, is when we work with our clients, it's not, you need to do it this way. It's, here's an offering that we have. How might you want to incorporate this into your own life or work or team experience? So we're open to all of those things.
Yes. Great.
Anything else? Otherwise,
No. After today, thank you everyone for joining. We will make sure that you have a digital copy of the guided workbook. You'll have a snapshot of how you can support. As Lindsay mentioned, please feel free to reach out, contact us of other ways that we can support you supporting the book.
Take your picture with it, put it on social media. That's an easy one. Yeah, tag Swamp Fox. Tag Restoration Project, please.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to add is you can always request it through your library. Most libraries, no matter where they're at, have a way for you to request it. So that's another way. And then don't forget to review it all the places. Even if you don't order from the big box stores, from Amazon, doesn't mean you can't review it there and still help the algorithm put Lindsay's book out there for others.
Thank you, Terry.
Good reminders. Thank you, Terry. And thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you for all the kind words that we've been reading in the chat about Lindsay, the book. All her hard work is coming out into the world, and we're so proud of her and just excited to be along for this wonderful ride and getting the book out there, especially this time of year. It's such an important time. And Q3, Q4, all of our clients are off and running, and then holidays will slow down. People will have a chance to really soak it up. And thank you for the gift into the world.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you for the part that each of you has played in making this possible and for carrying it out into as many hands as we can get it into. We're excited.
Yes. Thank you for joining today, everyone.
Thank you, Terry.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.